Hello everyone and welcome to another Thursday. That means it's a Gear Talk time. Happens every Thursday, 5 p.m. We're back at it again. First video after the Hive Buster discussion series, and man, I got like 20 to 30 videos in my backlog I just want to catch up on, and this one isn't even on the backlog. This one I just came up with yesterday, so I figured let's do that and then I'll just start working backwards because it just came to my mind. And by the title you can kind of guess what we're doing. We're talking about the Riftworm, because this thing has been stuck on my brain for a few months now. The Riftworm was in Gears of War 2. All us OGs know, maybe some of the newbies don't. That's the giant, those bones in the village in 5, that was the Riftworm. In 2, you fight the thing. The Riftworm is one of the scariest things you can think of, because of, not what it is, it's a giant worm. You can get used to that idea. Giant worms have existed in other things like Dune. You have that, Beetlejuice, you have the sandworms on Saturn. This is a little different because of the sheer size of this worm, okay? And we're going to get into it when we compare everything because, as the title states, we're going to be going down the list of things. So I have a list of characters here. Not characters, but, well, some are characters. Some are characters. I have monsters, I have characters, I have beasts, just with all of their sizes. And we're going to just compare everything to the Riftworm. I should put up as a disclaimer also, the Riftworm is going to be judged by its length. I'm going to be using its length compared to all these creatures, whether they go by length or height. Because, and I'll say this one now before we get to the length later on for the Riftworm, for just its width alone, for like how wide it is roughly half a mile. Now, if I were to judge that by standing size, which the Riftworm, that would be its standing size, I would pretty much guesstimate that it'll be half a mile tall too, because of the fact that I don't want to go in and do the math and go into guesstimations, so I would have guessed it was just a straight circle, which if you look at the character render for it or you look at it, that's not really the case. It's a bit more flat. But we're going to do this for length compared to everyone else because this thing is so massive, okay? I just need something to comparatively say, like, this is either bigger or smaller than this. So that's how we're going to do it for now. So these are the beasts from Gears of War, listing off all of them comparatively, the largest ones we have, to the Riftworm. Then I have other media creatures that would be just creatures or characters comparing to this thing again. And finally, I have things that are larger than the Riftworm. Because here's the thing, after you get past how big the Riftworm is, it kind of does get hard to find creatures that are just a little bit larger than it. I have one that is a bit larger, but everything else is just behemothly bigger. And these were like the obvious, like, yeah, no shit, these are bigger. So let's start off with everything from Gears and then go off from there. Starting off for Gears of War, and by the way, we're going to do this by the metric system, because if you do this by feet, the numbers just get out there pretty far. So I think we're going to do the metric system for everyone who does feet or inches or anything, or miles, which I converted everything, don't worry. Conversion math is always something to practice. I've been practicing it, so I'm just going to go by metric because it's easier for this. And I'm American, so trust me, feet and miles are something I would have went with, but metric just kind of works for this. So starting off for Gears of War, we have the Corpser. We all know the Corpser, big old spider-looking boy that's pretty much like, well, he is a boss in the first one, but becomes like a mini-boss later on. So the Corpser stands at its highest length, and I think this is an average height for the Corpsers, 11 meters. Now, if you don't know what 11 meters is, that's the thing. Trying to compare everything, I'm already comparing. I'd have to compare to the comparing. So 11 meters, not a bad height for a normal creature. Like for humans, I think I would be, what would I be in meters? I think I would be, I'd barely be above 2 meters, I think. I think that's how tall I would be. Going on from there, next up, we have the Brumok. Now, the Brumok, I believe, had a roughly around average of 40 feet. So converting that over, we have roughly 12 meters is how big a Brumok is. And by looking at Gears of War 2, when the Brumok squares off against a Corpser, the Brumok's a little bit bigger, but it's still kind of an even fight. The Brumok definitely is a little bit higher on the power range than the Corpser, but the Corpser, I think like a very powerful Corpser could take down an average Brumok. But that's where we stand so far. The Brumok is just one step higher than the Corpser. A little bit higher we go next, we have the Hive Beast. I had to go through and do some math for this one, and there's a few of them I had to actually do math for. And this one is kind of just a guesstimation because we fight the Hive Beast at Toland Dam. There was an an account somewhere online I found that was trying to go through the math on their own, and they came out to this thing just being 3 meters. And I didn't think that was right. This thing is higher than 3 meters, so I had to go through and look up the average size of a dam, because Toland Dam is a dam. Now, it's a little bit different structure than how we have dams, so this is a very large guesstimation. I do believe this is wrong. I'm giving it a bare minimum size right now. But I'm going to kind of just guesstimate it's the size of a dam, because with how high its head was, it was roughly to where that bridge up top was. So I'm going by that bridge being the average size for a dam. I understand that's not what a dam is, but I'm just going by that being the average for now. So the average size I could give the Hive Beast, in equivalent to being the size of a dam, would be around 14 meters. And this is giving it bare minimum. I do believe the Hive Beast is bigger, but I do believe also that if we have to judge it by the area it was around and going by averages, 14 meters, kind of understandable on a minor set. Honestly, I could see this being over 20 meters for the size of this thing, but I think on average, I think 14 meters is like arguable, but still understandable. Next up, this is where we jump up a bit. We have the Kraken from Gears 5. After seeing this, I kind of throw my thought of this being one of the 3 Riftworms out of my mind, because the size just does not equal up. And we'll talk about the Riftworm in a moment. He's up next. The Kraken, I'm really happy. On the wiki, there is someone who went through, I don't know who it was, but in the trivia section, they guesstimated the size of the Kraken, because they measured out the teeth and how big the creature would be comparatively to the teeth, and the teeth are about 6 foot each. They put down, the height relatively comes out to 175.5 meters. This blows everything out the water. This is a very big creature. And whoever did it, I don't have the reference name for the person who did it, but thank you. This means a lot. You gave me some size to work with. Finally, for the Gears of War franchise, for like the largest creatures we have, I have the Riftworm. Now, this is what we're comparing everything to, and the size of the Riftworm. Okay, how do I really explain this? The Riftworm is a very, very large creature. Like, it is extremely large. I already said, 1/2 mile wide for just its girth. This thing's length is so long, it's going to sound like the number is astronomically not right. Because even the character model does not look like it's right. The Riftworm sits at 8 to 10 miles long. And roughly, normally, its highest height is 10. That's what most people go with. I am going to go with that. At 10 miles long, the Riftworm is 16,093.4 meters long. This thing is so huge. This thing literally is almost relatively 10 times, I believe, maybe almost 100 times bigger than the Kraken. I'm sorry if my math is off, but it is vastly bigger than everything. It can bulldoze through anything, no problem. When I did the Swarm versus Locust Round 2 video, and I mentioned the Kraken and the Riftworm, I decided to leave the Riftworm out of everything, period. And I kind of already had that idea. The Riftworm literally plows through and kills everything. Like, that is, like, the thing is so durable, too. The only way to really kill it's from the inside. Like, the Riftworm is just this massive screw-off creature of death and destruction, and it's not even trying to hurt anyone. It's just living its life burrowing through the ground. It just so happens Scourge was able to control the damn thing. So it is by far the biggest creature in all of Gears, and this, honestly, the Riftworm in all forms of media for video games takes the cake as, I think, in the top 10, maybe even the top 5 now and then. But this creature is vastly huge. It is, and that just goes by its width and its height. It does not go by the length of this thing. The length blows so many things out of the water, which we'll get to with the other forms of media creatures that I have listed here. Going off of the list, I decided just to take some characters from other forms of media, whether it be manga, anime, pop culture, video games, or it could even be just like from actual movies. Starting off, I had written down the Colossal Titan from Attack on Titan, a pretty well-known giant creature of, yo, this is scary, red skin poking over. I put that down, and you're going to love this. The guy sits at 60 meters. He is smaller than the Kraken. Think about that. The Colossal Titan is smaller than the Kraken from Gears of War 5, or Gears 5. Next up on the list, I don't even need to go over that one anymore. Next on the list, I actually have one of this. Now, there's two different sandworms I have down, but this is the sandworm from the movie Beetlejuice that lives over on one of the Saturn moons, which I believe is Titan. I believe it lives on Titan. This measures in. There is no exact measurement, and I don't even know if this is the average. This is another one I kind of guesstimated. This one kind of sits at around, I would say, average 100 meters. Let's say 100 meters for length. I think that works pretty well, because if you look at a size comparison between this and, we'll get to this one next, the sandworm from Dune, it is very apparent this is a smaller creature. Even compared to humans, like, it looks like it could eat a singular human. Like, that's how big its mouth could be. But it is still a large creature. Going from there, we'll go to the sandworms from Dune, the big boys. Now, this one had an average measurement, I believe right here, they said, at a highest of 400 meters. 400 meters, if you do not know, is right now, as we're doing this list, the biggest creature I have listed so far, aside from the Riftworm. This creature is big enough to burrow through and just devour. It's honestly like the Riftworm. But the Riftworm, if you're going by meters, this thing is still just exorbitantly bigger than the Dune worm. So, Riftworm is still holding out right now, and this is the biggest creature we have, the sandworm. And even the next creature I'm about to mention is not bigger than the sandworm from Dune. The creature I have next, and I honestly, little side tangent once we get into it. The next creature I have is Godzilla. Now, I used the biggest Godzilla they had, because I'm aware of the Godzilla story and mythos, but I'm not very 100% into it. This is from Godzilla Earth, the biggest Godzilla that's ever been made. And this is like a what if in the future Godzilla kept growing, kept getting bigger. He's like just this giant, hulking mass of destruction. The highest Godzilla reaches at his peak biggest what if scenario or canon is 318.8 meters. The Dune worm is still longer than Godzilla standing upright. And the reason I bring up a small tangent, I'll go through it quick because we got one more section for things that are bigger than the Riftworm, is I originally actually was planning a Godzilla versus the Riftworm video. Who would win? And I was like, oh, like Godzilla will probably win, but let me take a look at some of the statistics, some tail of the tape. I did not think about the actual size of normal average Godzilla compared to 10 miles of the Riftworm. I think even like normal base Godzilla as he is now in the Monsterverse is still shorter than the half a mile high width of the Riftworm. I honestly don't like and I thought just like, how would Godzilla win? Like atomic breath right into the mouth because it's weak on the inside. I'm like, that could work. But then again, getting out of the Riftworm, sure, 4 dudes with 4 chainsaws, they got out of the Riftworm. So I'm like, I think Godzilla would just win in general. But it's the sheer size of this damn thing, Like, the Riftworm is 10 miles long. For all of you that don't know, miles are extremely long. Like, if you go a certain amount up in the air, you go past the clouds. I believe that's still shorter than 10 miles. The Riftworm standing from tail to head would go past all the clouds. And that's getting into our bigger section, which these people are very much massively bigger than the Riftworm. The next part of this list are just creatures that are bigger. I just have things that are bigger than the Riftworm, or just these things are giants compared to the thing. Like when you get past 10 miles of length, it is so hard to find creatures in pop culture or lore that are just bigger than that. It is so hard to find. I had to go looking, go onto lists, see what they had, and some things on the list are not longer than 10. For instance, the God of War, the World Serpent, at a most, he is 3 miles long. That is less than a third of how big the Riftworm is. And that's the World Serpent. Think about that for a moment. So I had to go through and actually start hunting things down. And even some of this I didn't get exact measurements for. Like 2 of these I had to guesstimate. And the first one I have down here is the shortest on the bigger list, which is Clover, the Cloverfield monster, but from Cloverfield Paradox. Now this one, there's no official height given for the adult forms, and it is shown that the adult form is able to have his head reach past the clouds. And this is him standing up and roaring, but this is also him standing up. So I had to do math on where like the highest level of clouds are, and a guesstimation came out to about 15,000 meters is the highest the clouds go. And since his head passes it, I had to do math on where he would kind of stack up. Now, it's not like, his belly came across and he was that huge. No, it was kind of like his shoulders up. So I think this is a good guesstimation. Might be a little bit on the small side. He was around 16,000 plus meters. And I'm honestly going to say, for his height compared to the length of the Riftworm, I think he's bigger. I think the adult Cloverfield monster is larger than the Riftworm, but only by a little bit. Next up, we go from the thousands to the millions now. Like, it's that hard to find something that just beats this big old boy. So, I have next up, and it's a big jump, the Brethren Moon from Dead Space. So, if you don't know, the Brethren Moon are literally like necromorph moon. It's a literal moon. And they're huge. The size of a Brethren Moon, an average size I have down, is 3,218,686 meters. This thing is it's the size of a moon. Like, it could, if it hit the Earth, it would it would destroy the planet. That's how big this thing is. The Riftworm's got nothing compared to it. This just became at a point when I got to this point of the video. What is actually bigger? I'm just gonna take whatever I can find. The next biggest thing we have is actually, I believe he holds the record for the biggest creature or enemy or character in all of video games. I can think of one other person that's bigger, but it's never been stated how large that creature is. Next up, we have Wyzen from Azura's Wrath, and a lot of people know who Wyzen is, I'm guessing. Wyzen is one of the 7 deities that you fight in Azura's Wrath, and one of his abilities, his final form, is turning into the size of a planet, and his ultimate ability is here's the planet, is just finger poke the enemy on the planet and kill him. And it's like a meteor going in and just destroys everything. That's how big he is. His finger can destroy it. Now, obviously I'm overhyping him. Like, he's the size of a planet, so his finger would just hit the surface. It's not like he just destroyed the planet. His size in meters, I hope you're ready, 12,496,800 meters. That is the size of a planet. Understand, I think they said 7,700, 7,700 miles he was tall, which I believe is the size of the planet. They said he's a little bit over, so I might be wrong. I don't know the exact measurements of our planet, but he is that flippin' large. The only person I can think of bigger would be God at the end of Azura's Wrath in the DLCs. I can't say his name, but you're throwing planets around at that point is how big the guy is. So I would assume he's bigger, but we never had any height measurements or anything for him, because I did think about him for this. Finally, the biggest creature I can think of, and there are so many more creatures and things that are bigger in all of media. This is just my list I have. The other character I have would have to probably go to Galactus from the Marvel franchise. Now, Galactus is the World Eater. He's big enough just to take energy from planets, or I think there are some renditions where he just straight up eats the planet. So the thing about him is his normal size is 29 feet, which isn't that big compared to everything we've listed. But he has the ability to get as big as he needs to devour the planet he's working on. And there is art everywhere of him the size of a planet, him his waist area is the planet itself. There's been a photo I saw somewhere, I don't know if it's a canon one or not, he's pretty much palming a planet. That's how big the dude is. So I don't know what his size would be, but he's I would say 3 times Wyzen's size. He's palming a planet. He's holding a planet in his hand. That is how large. And then, you have other things like in Men in Black at the very end when you learn our universe is a marble and there's giant aliens. That is unfathomably big to think about. I can't even guess how large that would be. But I just wanted to run through and give some ideas of the size that some of these gigantic creatures have compared to the Riftworm. When it comes to planetary creatures living on the planet, the Riftworm is probably one of the biggest ones for length. I can't think of anything else. The Reapers, their height goes up to a mile, I believe they said, from Mass Effect. Their height compared to the width, they're only a tenth. The Riftworm is that large. I was going to make a video about the Riftworm or versus Godzilla or something, but it came down to, this thing is insanely long. People do not understand how long a mile is. And I just wanted to make that video. I thought this would be a fun one to start the new Just Get My Videos Out There series. Not a series. We're not doing a series till the end of the year, probably. So that's probably going to do it. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone for making this possible. And thank the patrons for making this possible. That's the beauty of it. I don't know what the next video is going to be, and I'm 100% fine with that. I will see you guys in the next Gear Talk. Always Thursday. Every other Thursday. 5 o'clock. Good times all the time. Later.